Yep. It
There
just
we
added
go.
it in.
Cool. A
Huh.
little late, but here we are.
That's all right. Hey, look, I'm glad that the guys that are here found us. Or was I just mistaken? But anyway, we're live, guys.
Yeah.
If you're just now seeing us go live on the Builders Tribe, it's because I had us broadcasting on the Gentleman Designs channel by mistake. So I guess we'll finish broadcasting there, and I'll put the replay up on the Builders Tribe so you catch everything. Because Hawkeye was just dropping some interesting tidbits of information, and I don't want you guys to miss it. So catch the first 12, 13 minutes of the show tomorrow. If you missed it, catch it tomorrow on the replay. I'll post it up over there at the Builders Tribe. So I'm glad I noticed that. So before we really got into the meat
I wasn't
of
even paying attention.
things, I'm looking, I'm like, why am because I'm chatting in the chat, and I'm like, why is Gentleman Designs coming up and not Builders Tribe? That's nuts. That just goes to show you it's been that kind of week, guys. Anyway, Hawkeye, you ready to get into your Hawkeye custom corner and show us what you got as far as stippling and how to get started?
Yeah.
So on and so
do
forth.
that. What I thought I'd do for you guys is, I know Ram likes to talk about me as some kind of expert, but all I've done is messed up enough stuff to know not what to do. And any of you guys that do want to do your own stippling but don't want to take that jump, well, I'm here to help you because I took that jump and I messed up a bunch of stuff. And I've learned some things along the way, and hopefully I can help you out as we go along and show you that it's not as hard as everybody's putting out. It's takes a little bit of experience. You need to start out easy and work your way up. But I'm here to help. So if we want to get started, we'll start off with what you need. Now, this is just basic stuff right here. I got a bunch of tips. Now, you see that little thing on the right, that little cup? I got that with a soldering gun for cleaning off your soldering iron. It works really good for cleaning off your tips because if you build up plastic on the end of your tips, you'll start getting burn marks on it, and it really shows up bad if you're doing a light colored frame like a gray or a tan or something. Not so much with black, but anyway, that works really good. Just stick your iron in there and twist it around, and it cleans them off. Now, the soldering iron is a short arm. Now, this is what I use.
Same one I use.
But when I started, I had it in my mind that, well, I need an iron that gets really hot, 80 watts, 60 watts, something like that. Don't. They're too hot. They burn too fast. You lose your control. And believe me, when you have an oops and you hit your hand, you burn yourself a whole lot more with 180 watts than you do with 25 watts.
I feel like the 25 is a little more controllable for me.
Exactly.
I went out and bought one of those adjustable temperature wattage ones with the dial. I could never get it dialed in the way I wanted it.
Yeah, I did too.
So I just stuck with the 25 watt. It worked perfect. I could never get the other one dialed in right.
Dialed in is really, really tricky. I have two. Well, one has disintegrated. I don't know what happened with that one, but I still have one, and it's extremely hard for me to get it dialed in. I kind of got it dialed in now. I'm almost tempted to get it right where it's supposed to be and put a piece of super glue right there so it's the same and doesn't move.
Yeah.
I'll just stick with my 25 watt manual.
Yeah. And notice too, it's got a short end on it. That works out really good for stippling, so you're not so far up in that air. Remember, if you have any kind of shaking problem or you're not secure with your hand and you shake, when you have a longer tip, you're going to shake more than you do with a shorter tip. That's
I don't
just
know if
physics.
I don't know if anybody can see, but I always stip. This hand holding the stipple tip. We'll say this is my stipple tip,
Yeah,
and then this is the hand I had
right.
used to brace it, so I get that same
Exactly.
same depth every time.
Yeah.
That way, I'm
You,
not freehanding it like this. Got to
yeah.
get that same depth every time. I like to use my other hand as a brace, or I'll even just put out a finger as a brace.
Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly right. Even when you're doing custom stuff on your grips where you're carving and you have those sand discs and everything, you always need to brace your hand. And the reason
It'll
for
help.
that is whatever you're doing can grab and jerk. Well, if your hand isn't secure somewhere, that jerk can be a real bad jerk and you've messed something up, or it could be just something you jerk back off of and everything's fine.
Or you know what? It happens to all of us. You get somebody bursts in the room as you're doing it and yells something. All of a
Yeah,
sudden, you get your attention
distraction.
taken off of. Yep. Whereas if you got your hand there, if you do, it won't be so bad. But if you didn't have your hand there and we're just trying to freehand it, you're probably going to put a hole in your frame.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
that short tip really made a difference in when I started tippling. It really helps. It just does. And you can see I got a large collection of stuff here. That's because I bought 4 different irons with a whole mess of tip kits, and then I bought some extra tips. But so far, I mean, they've come in pretty handy. I've used not all of them, but now those silver ones, they came with a wood burning iron, and I never have tried them. I don't know. I haven't yet. I was afraid they would stick plastic because they're made for wood.
I've
Uh,
used them on for wood burning. I do some wood burning stuff here and there.
yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of those tips, and I
My
haven't
collection's
used
looking
half of
about
them.
like yours.
Well, you're just getting started.
Well, I've been doing stippling for over a year, but
Okay.
I tried a couple of them and they just didn't work out too good, so I just threw them back in the box.
Yeah, a lot of these are like that. And
Yeah.
what I do is I'll find one that I haven't used much or don't plan on using. I'll grind the end off of it and make my own tip.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
You
about
can
doing that as well.
you can do that with a set of files. You can get on a bench grinder and just zip zip, or even one of those belt sanders that's got
Yeah,
some
just a few
good sand in.
passes.
Yeah,
My frames are more precious than toilet paper when camping.
yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, you'll get a collection of stuff, and I mean it's a whole part of planning. You want to get all this stuff up front instead of getting into something and then find out, well, I need this, I need that. This is pretty much
Yeah.
for get you ready. This whole night is about getting things ready for when you do stipple, because it's like everything in this custom process. You have to plan ahead, and the prep is most important until you paint or you stipple or something. It's always the prep work all the way up. What you do ahead of time will show off at the end of your build.
Yeah.
And here, now this is the one on the left with these 3 tips. For any beginner, those are what you want to go for. Those tips are for doing random. And what you'll do with those tips is you'll start at an area and you just squiggle your way around and stop. And then you'll go at another place and you squiggle around and you'll stop. And then you go to another spot, you squiggle around and you stop until you start bringing it all together. And then you can blend it all together, and it's completely random. Now, if you notice, there's different diameters on these tips. Now, I got one in that box I use that's really a fine tip. And if you look at those Talon rubber grip things, it'll put that type of texture on, and it kind of looks like sandpaper. It almost blends perfectly with that. So if you've noticed that P40 Warhawk build I did on a Gen 1 Glock, the whole back end of that is built up with a big beaver tail. That beaver tail had to be molded in with JB Weld. Well, JB Weld doesn't stipple. So the whole back strap of that build is that Talon stick-on stuff, but the rest of the build is actually using one of these tips and just going around like I just said, and it blends in perfect. You can't tell where the stippling is and where that stick-on stuff starts.
Nice.
And but these are the tips you want to start with. They're easy to do. That second one from the left, that's the one I use a lot for doing my border. I'll just scrape it along and it'll just puts a fine bead of plastic up. And then I'll probably use one of them others to, do the random stuff, and it comes in good. Now, this is what you need for a beginner. The center picture, you definitely need if you're a beginner. Those tips in the middle there are flat ends. And what I do with those is when I start stippling something and I goof or I don't like it or I get off my pattern or something I don't like, those right there you can use to melt it all black flat, and you can start over again. And believe me, I wish I'd have known that before I screwed up my first frame. But believe me, you're going to want some of those in the future.
So I have a tip similar to those in my kit, and it's a tip that I swear by it, and that would be the cutter tip from OT Defense.
Yeah.
Which kind of looks like a chisel, but with a hook. It's like a chisel, but at an angle. And you can actually use that to cut in border, or you can flip it over and use the bottom side of the chisel and use that to smooth in your polymer. They work so good. A similar tool, different function, but I love that. Yep.
Same purpose. You got a flat edge that you can flatten stuff out with.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can also use it to push and move polymer. Say you wanted, the center of the front of your grip to outbow a little bit more. You can actually push polymer towards the center more, and then use that to build out of.
Have you seen the guys that do the index finger rest on the side, and they'll either add plastic or they'll do what you said. They'll push some plastic up. So it's like a little step that your index finger sets on the side of the barrel. I've been wanting to try that. I haven't yet, but
I did that with that last build.
The no name build.
Yeah, the one you shall not name.
Oh, you got jokes. I'm trying to find that tip you were just talking about on OT Defense's page.
I bet you I can just pop it to my Google Photos here and just pop it up for us.
I'm starting to think that they don't have it anymore. What the hell?
Oh, they have it.
Yeah. I'm sure. Here we go. Got it. Got it. Let me see if I can share my screen with the Chrome tab. Here we go. That tip right there.
Yep. So what's nice about that one is what I'll do is I'll cut in. So if I'm doing, this most recent build, I did a really deep recess border and a really deep recess stipple to where it's just about level with the rest of the grip all the way around, but just slightly recessed where I don't have any bumpage. I actually use that tip to get my edge straighter, and then I flip it over onto the back side to that flat side and push that down and pull in as well. That tip is dope. I love it.
Yeah, definitely helps if you mess up, you can smooth it back out.
Yeah,
you can also
cut a corner really sharp. Yeah. That works really nice for cutting really sharp corners because you can just take the chisel tip edge of it and just go right into the corner and drag out.
Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Super duper nice tip.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I'm sure the one you have on the far left there, the kind of spearhead tip, works very similar to that as far as for getting into tight corners.
Yeah, it does good on corners and edges. The round ones I use for a center area, and then when I get to the edges, I'll use that foot-looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell they've been used a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do something and I don't like it, or I'll, do a different style. But knowing that you can fix this stuff, it goes a long way to building your confidence. And really stippling and doing a good stipple job is all about your confidence in what you're doing. Yep. Now that picture on the far right, that's a bunch of stuff that I use. I don't use the sanding discs a whole lot because they have a tendency to gouge. But
so the sanding discs I typically use for the center of my factory stipple area.
Right.
So I'll take and I'll mark my edges, and then I'll go and I'll start in the center, remove my center area, get up as close to the edge as I can with those sanding drums.
Yeah.
And then I'll switch over to your carving bits, like the ones next to the sanding drums there, your cutting bits or carving bits.
Yeah.
To dig my edge in, and then switch over to your diamond tipped bits.
Here's what I like doing is up there in the center next to the sanding discs are some ball carbide ball,
the carving bits.
Yeah, and I'll take those and run my line, but I won't put a lot of pressure. I'll just get me a guideline, and then if you look on the bottom far right, those are concave diamonds. And what I'll do is I'll take that concave diamond and lay over in where I just cut that ball, and that puts a bevel on that cut right down in there. So you already got your bevel going for making your border. And then from there, it's just cleaning up stuff with all the other stuff. Now I've watched videos where guys like using that grinder wheel up on the top right. I've tried that, and it's a grinding wheel. And what it does is it loads up with plastic, so it doesn't cut anymore, it burns. It actually melts the plastic as it's going along.
Yeah, that's why you have to go really, really slow.
Yeah, really, really slow. I'll use that one for maybe not a corner, but close to the corner. The bevel, going into a corner, but not for more than a few seconds, because those things get gunked up. Next thing you know, you got melting plastic.
Yeah, I find it's better to clean everything up with those diamond burrs. They cut slower. They don't have a tendency to gouge as much.
Yep.
And you just control it. You have more control over what you're doing.
Yeah, I like the carving bits, the carbide carving bits, and I like the diamond ones. Those are probably my favorite out of all of the Dremel bits that I use.
A lot. Oh, those are my go-tos for everything. I got all different sizes, shapes. They're good for what they do. They really are.
I just recently went out and picked up a whole bunch more of those sanding drums. Like a 40-pack, something like that, for $9.
Yeah, I picked up
the tiny ones.
A set off of Amazon, I think, where in the 1/2 inch, the 3/8, and the 1/4, and they were from everywhere from 800 all the way up to a 600 grit. All you really need is 600, 400 for roughing stuff out.
Yep.
Very seldom do I use any coarser, because what those coarse ones do is they put some pretty big scratches that have to be polished out when you're through. I mean, if you're doing your frame, it's not that big a deal on the stippling.
If you're sanding your frame, use the coarser grit stuff maybe for the center of your stipple area,
Yeah.
and then as
Just
you
don't
go
get
towards the
crazy with
outside, use the lighter stuff. I typically go for like the good 600 or 800
Yeah,
most of the time.
those are my go-to 600s, and I hardly ever use the half inch. I use a lot of the 3/8, and I use
quarter.
the 1/8 inch a lot, and the quarter. The half inch I might use for doing the index finger cut on the trigger,
Yep.
but I really don't use it much for anything else, and it's too big. You don't have the control in a
No.
small area that you would in the 1/4 inch bit.
I might go in with the half inch and remove maybe the brunt of the material off of my stipple area, like the center of the grip.
Yeah.
But I don't think I would venture any further with that. You just don't have the control. You can't take the corners you can with like the 1/4 inch bit.
Yeah, that's right. And another thing that comes in handy that I use a lot for sharpening my borders is a set of nice jeweler files. And I like the ones that angle like these here, because that way you can get down in the corners and everything. You're not having this big flat piece. There's more of the filing like that than it is if you get a flat one. They just work, and you can get a set, and there'll be round ones, diamonds, flat ones. I mean, they're
I
really
have some little half round one I use to get into some corners of pesky ones that are giving me trouble.
Yeah. And what I was wanting to tell you about this frame you see here is that's a PF9SS. That was the one I turned into the Black Widow. That originally was cut for those rubber grips. And you can see how I did that. I recessed everything. All I did was took all the factory stippling out, and that let me put that rubber in there. And it was like a recess. You really didn't feel it. It felt really good. And then when it come time to stipple, I already have all this done. Now, a lot of people, or a lot of stuff I've seen on YouTube and that, they say you don't have to take all that stippling off. I like flat, clean surface.
I mean, you can, but then it just everything blends into each other. You don't have any border. It just
And
you get uneven spots. You can get uneven spots because of where your stipple tip slips into the grooves of the factory pattern.
Yeah, and you can always see it. I've blown up pictures and looked at these guys. I can tell the old stippling from the factory stippling.
You can tell they didn't spend any time grinding.
Yeah. Like I said, if you want a good job, it's all this prep before you stipple that makes it look good. It goes a long way.
I think you guys have both seen. I actually use painter's tape for my stipple.
Yeah.
I use it for my edges. Gives you a nice straight edge that you can go all the way up to the edge of. I mean, you're obviously not stippling into the tape.
That's right.
But you can go all the way up to the edge of it. And it gives you a nice, clean, straight border. And then once I'm done with my initial carving in my border, then I'll take the tape off. What that does is protects the rest of your frame in case for some reason your Dremel were to skip, or or you were to get distracted and you were cutting your border, and with that cutting tip, RAM popped up on the screen. It'll protect the rest of your frame from an oops or an accident. But it gives you a nice, clean, straight edge, and you can use the tip of your finger once you get the painter's tape on, and say you like on Hawkeye's Black Widow, where there's a slight curve up there by where the index finger is. You can actually take your fingernail and push the painter's tape a little bit and mold it. So if you don't want a straight edge corner to corner with the tape, you can take and mold a piece of it and get a nice round curve out of it if you wanted to, and use that as your guide for your Dremel.
See these concave diamond bits I have on the far right? They also have diamond on the very end of them, so it's like a disc, and I can hold them straight up like this.
Get yourself a nice curve.
Right, and I can angle that down in there and get my bevel. I got different rounds, so they can go in and do my radiuses, because I'm not big on square corners, so I like to put the radius. Well, that's what I put those radiuses in with. Anyway, they work. I'm a big fan of these. I have them in all different sizes, and just for the fact that they got that round flat disc on the end of them, you can clean up all kinds of stuff in tight places with those.
I think I picked up 2 packs of those at a Mills Fleet Farm one day because they had like a sale on them.
Yeah,
I just get a stock of those things. They're awesome. They're also great for wood carving. Yeah. I've used those on every wood carving I've ever done.
Well, I use them a lot when I was actually doing a lot of hand work. That's where I came in contact with them, and they just work good for this stuff. Now, if you look at the right picture there, see that white stuff? I always do a rough out on my builds where I want to stipple, so I kind of get an idea of what I want to do. You can see on this one where I've actually done that, those HD borders. I had all this down and everything before I started planning out what type of stippling I was going to use and stuff. See what I do is I'll draw them out, and I'll sit there and look at them for a while and decide what I want to do. So you got a plan. You need to have it all worked out in your head before you start all this stuff, because there's not a whole lot of backing up if you get your layout wrong.
ain't no backing up.
Yeah,
I mean, you can use that tip that Weapon was talking about and maybe fix minor stuff, but
yeah, you can clean up stippling, but it's hard to clean up a layout that you want to change.
Yeah, once you start your borders, you're kind of committed to it.
I do about the same thing. I go in with either a white piece of chalk, or I'll go in with a pencil.
Yeah, this is a white
going with
pencil.
like a mechanical pencil with a nice eraser.
I like you. I use a white pencil on the black frames and use a regular pencil on the FDE.
But you don't want to use magic markers.
Nope.
Because it's hard to get those off, and if you don't, they'll burn your stipple.
And you don't want to use dry erase, because all it takes is one little fingerprint and your little drawing's gone.
Yeah. But what I'll do is, like on this one here, I had it all planned out on what I was going to do to it and that. And so then I come back and I took all the dots off, everything, and then I run over it with one of those polishing wheels with the 3M stuff on it. I forgot what they call them, but that'll take the pencil marks off, and I don't have those on anymore. So after I get that, then this is what I go. I got some, you can get this layout tape, painter's tape for doing detail work. And this happens to be a 1/4 inch. And anytime I want to do like a border edge, like the one on the left, I'll run my tape down, and that gives me a line to go by, because you can't just freehand everything, because you'll never get nothing straight. You have to have a line to work to. And
that stuff works great. Absolutely great. I will tell you guys, for anybody who's like, I'll just use a ruler. No, they ain't fucking doesn't work that way. You're not using a ruler to get a straight edge on one of those. Not happening.
And see what I'll do is I'll take one of those concave bits and I'll lay it on its side, and I'll work my way up to that edge, and or I'll take a ball and I'll go down there and work myself up to that edge. Well, after I get that edge started and beveled in, I'll take that tape off, and then I'll start my jeweler files, and I'll just start cleaning it up and making it straight. And you've already got your line. You just need to clean up your edges a little bit. It makes it a whole lot easier. The center picture shows how I straightened up those edges going into that index trigger finger relief. This is a easy way to do this, and it really helps you out controlling what you do. Now, if you look on the left picture, that is what I did after I stippled that twice and it sucked. And I took those tips and I just cleaned it all up. See, it's rounded off again. I can go right back to, and start all over.
Mm-hmm.
My layout's pretty much still there. I kept my bevel. I tell you, those tips are going to save your butt now.
And I'll add to what Hawkeye is saying too. When you guys are, decide to start doing this, slow and steady wins the race. Don't try to remove all of the material at once, especially with those diamond bits. Make small passes.
Yeah.
Move a little bit of material at a time. Make a small pass. Remove a little bit of material at a time. Go to the edge. Remove a little bit of material. Nice and slow. I also find working from right to left and up to down works a lot better, and you get a lot more control over your bits.
Yeah.
Don't try to go down to up, and don't try to go left to right. Unless, of course, you're a lefty, that is.
What I like doing is I'll put this is about the only thing I use them stupid masks for, is I'll put one of those masks on and I'll pull towards me. So stuff's coming at me. All right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
But
shit's kicking up at you, but you have so much more control.
Yeah, you're controlling.
So much more
you're
control.
seeing what you're doing. And
you'll get straighter lines with that as well.
Exactly. Because it's just it has to do with the rotation of your cut.
Of the spinning of the
if you're trying
wheel.
If it's going counterclockwise and you're pushing it, you're more apt to get a gouge or pull off somewhere, to where if you're coming towards you, all your material is getting spit out, and it's just like dragging a pencil.
Or you'll get if you try to work it the other way, you'll get a skip. So that's where you're going down the line, and your bit just skips a little bit outside of your line, and you get this little squiggly. Yeah. And then you've got the rest of your really nice border, but you've got this funky little fucking squiggle outside of it now that you got to go in. You got to lightly sand down so it disappears back into your border.
Yeah.
So nice and slow and steady wins the race.
Yeah.
Drag your bits one way to the other. Don't drag them the opposite way.
And you can see there on the left, this is that lone wolf, and the way they have that front of that grip cut, right down the center is where that mag release spring goes. So it's real thin right in there. You can take material off there, but you can't go any further than what they already have, because it's really thin. So what I did on this one, the first one I built, I took it off, but this one, and then I realized I got lucky because I could have really screwed that up. But by taking that flat tip and just melting all this back in, it gives you plenty of plastic, and you can pretty much stipple what you want right in there after that. And the center picture, now if you notice those lone wolves, they got that little wolf stamp in there. The kind of stippling I did on this one, I really needed a flat surface, because with that random type stippling, you can hide a lot. You can hide a lot of mistakes. You can move stuff around. But when you're doing a pattern that has a flat center in of the burn, you need a flat surface to start with, because you don't want humps and stuff in it. You want it to be nice and clean. Well, so what I did was I melted some tabs into that logo that they got on there, and I just sanded it all down smooth, and that gave me a place where I could stipple, and it worked out. I've used that a couple of times when I did burn through a grip or something. You could take plastic, melt back in there, sand everything back to where it needs to be, and
save your tabs.
You're going to have to make sure you can get to it from the inside too, because you don't want a bunch of plastic hanging in the inside and you can't put your clip in, or your trigger
Yep.
housing don't fit now, or something like that.
Save your tabs, save your polymer dust. I used polymer dust to build up the mag extension bump. So I wanted so like on the newest build I did, I actually stippled my mag extension, and I stippled it, but I added extra material to it so it stuck out a little bit to drive my hand up into the grip. And that worked really well. So save your polymer dust and polymer tabs. You
also
can actually
helps
take
with fixing pinholes that you mess up.
Yep. Take a polymer tab and take like a baggie and one of your Dremel sanding bits and just sand the polymer tab right inside of the baggie, or use some sort of a pliers or something so you get just the dust. And you can take one of those flat tips that we were talking about and just melt it back into the rest of your polymer.
Yeah, I prefer fixing holes by melting plastic in them instead of using epoxy.
Yep.
Something about epoxy, when you paint it, sometimes you can still see it around the holes.
Because it has a different finish.
Yeah, and remember, epoxy is not bonding. Epoxy sticks. So if you're doing a lot of custom work where you're putting the thing together and taking it apart, putting it together, and you're pushing these pins in and out, in and out, in and out, most likely sooner or later you're going to push epoxy out of the hole you just fixed. That's why I prefer to use the plastic.
Yeah.
But now
I fixed the hole with the JB Weld before. It didn't work out too well, so I'm going with the plastic. I'm about to fix the frame for my plain Jane, so I'm about to.
Yeah. Now I have
put that to work.
I have fixed them with JB Weld. You wouldn't believe the stuff I've screwed up. That's how I can tell you how this stuff works. If you're gonna use JB Weld to fix a hole, you need to bevel it on the inside and the outside. So when that dries, it actually is drying around a bevel, so it stays in. Otherwise, it'll push out too.
Yeah,
just
pushed out. As soon as I drill it, it pushed right out.
Do the old trick people use when they bevel their holes for their drill bits to make them look factory. Just take a drill bit larger than your hole and spin it a little bit so you get a nice bevel, and then when you fill it, it'll stay in better because it's like works as a plug instead of just a.
You know what I use that work real good for that is I take one of those ball diamond burrs, and with my fingers I would do that, and I could just anyway. That's the way I did it. Hopefully, I don't have to do that anymore. But the picture on the far right, I wanted to show you guys how I had this all masked up, but down on the very bottom of that grip, you can see a little shiny part where the paint's still showing.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you get ready to stipple, that's got to go, because your iron hits that, it'll burn and make a mess because paint doesn't stipple. It just melts into the plastic and makes
another thing I'll say for you guys, if anybody gets a frame Cerakoted, try to get your borders really nice when you're doing your Dremel work, because when you go to actually do the edge of your border with stitching, when you go to stitch your border with your iron, Cerakote's really strong shit. You're not burning that, so you can go right up to the edge of that and use that as a nice hard edge as well. Yeah. So always Cerakote first, stipple second.
Right. I always stipple last.
Yep. Hey guys, I just wanted to backtrack real quick. We had a question by Blade Boy. He asked what magwell is that on the OEM or P80 frame. I guess there was a magwell. That's a good question. I'm not sure
right
which
here
we're on.
That's a Lone Wolf extension on a Pierce.
I think he might be talking about right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the site when when I did the write up on this build. Oh
Was
no,
that
I
the
did it on.
Wolf Magwell you had to do the modifications on and then buried in the grip or embedded in
Yeah.
the grip?
Yeah, it was because those lone wolf magwells, they suck. So this is actually a magazine extension, and it feels great. It feels like you almost have a 19
think
or a 17 in your hand.
I think he's actually referring to the far right picture, Hawkeye. You have that Magwell on that one.
Yeah, now that's the lone wolf magwell, and
Yep.
I modified it.
Yep, I think that was the one he's referring to. The other one's the mag extension, which is just what your
that one,
your standard mag
don't
extension
have that on there yet.
Standard
Okay,
standard
now that
pinky
one,
grip.
That's the lone wolf, and the back of the lone wolf where they have those pins that hold all that together. It looks like
grab some
crap.
water. Hold on.
So I just filled all that in and reshaped it the way I wanted it. The front I reshaped to get that sharp edge. It's not sharp. It's just it's not a very large radius, and my little finger had a tendency to hang on that, and it just didn't feel right. So I radiused it a little more. But you got to be careful with those lone wolf because the way they fit, there's not a whole lot of stock there to take off. I'm one of these 22s I'm doing now. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with it, but I'd really like to hack the heck out of that front of that and redo it with JB Welds.
Well, now, Danny had a good question, and because I haven't done my lone wolf yet. He said, "Have you guys noticed the holes on the jig of the lone wolf are not even?" I'm not sure what he's referring to on that, but since you just finished working on 3 different lone wolves, have you noticed anything to that fact on your jigs?
No, I haven't had a problem with the jigs. Actually, I built 3 of them, and I think I used the same jig on all 3.
Yeah, I haven't
Now,
had an
the
opportunity
holes
to build
on
my
this-
lone wolf yet.
The holes on this one right here, I haven't cleaned up yet. Well, I have. The gun's finished, but in this picture, they haven't been cleaned up.
Gotcha.
But they're, I didn't have any problems. Matter of fact, the pins on the lone wolf are my best fit on pins. They fit tight, but I can push them in and out by hand, which is what I try to do instead of having to beat on them all the time.
Oh yeah, exactly. I like mine to the point where I can just use the Glock tool to get him in and out barehanded.
Yeah. Now these 2 here. Now that one on the left, you know how I designed all that flag coming down into that. I got all this done. I got everything laid out, and I cleaned everything up. Now this is just before I stippled, and
That's one of my favorites.
The torn flag one.
Yeah, I think that was the first one I saw from you when we were on the other forum, and I was like, "Holy cow, that is hot!"
Yeah, that's PF 45, I believe, and it's got the magwell on this one is for a Glock 21, and I just molded it in because it didn't fit.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? Folks, can you look at these 2 pictures up here on the screen? All right. Now, do we remember what this man said that he was at the beginning of this stream? I believe he said he was a novice. To any of you, does this prep work look like novice work to any of you folks?
No, not me.
Continue, Hawkeye.
Well, it's just it's a learning process, and I'm just a little further along than a lot of guys. Let me put it that way. That one on the right has got an aluminum magwell on it. That's really nice. I prefer those.
I have that same one, and I love that magwell. It was a cheap eBay magwell, but I fucking love it. I think it was meant to mimic. If it comes to me, I'll say it out later, but I can't remember the brand.
But what I wanted to say about these two for stippling is the reason why I like to take the factory stippling off is everything's recessed back to original height. Mm-hmm. So when you go in and you start stippling in areas like this and everything, it's only going to come back to the original width of that grip. When I first started doing a stipple, I just cut my borders and I stippled. And what I noticed was when I went to grab that gun, the center of the grip was wider and you felt it in your palm. And you had to go in there and you had to buff the stippling.
You get the hot points.
Yeah, to get those off because you could really feel them when it's sticking up real high like that. Well, when you do that, it flattens the tips out of all your stippling and it makes everything look uneven. So by recessing everything and then bringing stuff up back to about the same height as it was when you started, you don't have to buff as much, and it just everything feels the same.
Sometimes how I'll handle if you get a high spot is take a torch, don't go up against the frame, but come back just a little bit, just till you start to see the palmer react with it.
Yeah.
Let it sit for a second till it cools just a little bit, and then palm it, and then that'll knock the high area down a little bit, but it also won't flatten your stipple down.
Yeah. Well, taking a torch to plastic,
try that, or you'll
taking a torch to plastic scares the shit out of me.
Just one of those little actually.
But what
just a little chef's torch.
Yeah.
Not anything crazy, just a little chef's torch.
What I do is when I get through is I'll take one of those buffing wheels in a medium grit and I'll go over it, knock some of that high off of it. And to bring that color back, unless you want a dull color. Now, if you do a real good stipple job and you have that flat color and you want to keep it, buff it and leave it alone. If you want to bring it a shine to it or a little, a color to or up with a shine on it, get some, I use McGuire's black, but there's all kinds of plastics, Restore.
Yep, I use Pledge Revive It.
Yeah, well, what I'll do is I'll take and I'll put it on my grip, and I will get one of those soft brushes, and I'll just work it in, and then I'll come back and I'll take they're like little cotton. They're not bobs, but they're like a bob, but they're got loose strands in them. They're real soft. And then I'll take and I'll go over that. And what that does is that'll take all that extra polish out of there, and it leaves a real good finish. You can look at my last two builds I've done on both of those, and especially the Night's Watch. That really helped that grip out because it had a real dull look to it. But that's how you bring that back, just like you would a frame. When you do a lot of sanding on your frame and stuff, you want to bring it back. I'll wipe it down with kerosene to get all the dust and stuff off, and then I'll come back with that polish and go through the same process, and it'll bring the color back out of that plastic.
That's going to be Hawkeye's new name, Vincent Van Glock.
Well, I don't know. I only got one Glock. Everything else P80s and Lone Wolves.
Okay, Vincent Van Glock
platform.
But that's what I got. It's for right now. Our next part 2, we'll get into actual stippling and the different patterns you can do with different tips. How to work it a little bit, and I hope this helps you guys because it's not as hard as it looks. it's about a feel. You know, I'm sure you guys talk about getting some more Palmer to practice on in that. I've never had Palmer to practice on. I have just plastic lids and stuff laying around that's not a Palmer.
Yeah, I just use a polymer case thing I picked up, a little lockbox thing. That's what I use to stipple on.
Well, the one I got's not even Palmer. It's just regular plastic. And what it helped me do is it melts so fast that I was able to, not push. I was able to get a feel for not melting the plastic that melts really quick. So when I went to a Palmer, I had a little bit more feel and control of how I was burning each one of those. But I don't see any reason why you can't go both ways. It all works. It all works. And seeing how you can fix your stuff, guys, jump in there, man. I'll help you out. Just come on the forum and ask questions.
A question. Yep.
Yeah, man. I talked to Hawkeye when I was talking to Hawkeye earlier today about the project I've been working on, and I used my paint booth for the first time today, and actually it came out really good. But we were kind of tossing around different what do you call it, strategies to doing different things. He's always available on the forum. So, but if you aren't a member of the forum, be prepared. Just stay tuned for the new forum coming up. But guys, you know that he's available in the forum on DMs and in the on the board. So,
go to resources. I like resources.
Oh yeah, he's always putting up different things in the resources for everybody to to be able to gain the knowledge that he has, and we really appreciate that. We're actually in the process of moving all of his stuff over to the new forum, and hopefully in the blog section. So but the new forum, since we're speaking about it, new forum is slotted to be grand opening the 7th of February. Since none of us will be here, there'll be no show on February 14th because everybody should be busy with their loved ones on February 14th. And if you don't have a loved one to be with, love yourself. So just don't love yourself too much. You know what I mean? So, but guys, Hawkeye did an awesome job. I think everybody give him a round of applause because he did an absolutely awesome job presenting the information. I mean, if I'd had this information when I first got started stippling, I would have started stippling a lot earlier. Yeah. Stay tuned for part 2 because he's actually going to go into some actual stippling techniques, and I'm sure he'll have some of his beginning projects as well as some of the projects he's just worked on, pictures. Obviously, I wish we could do tutorials on actual frames. Because,
same.
Just be.
What if I recorded video of me doing one, and then we played the video?
We might be able to do that, but I'm not sure. They move the goalpost almost weekly on what we can or can't do on the lives.
Speaking of, while everybody's here, did everybody see the frame thing I posted today? If you didn't, go onto the forum, go into general discussions. I posted a picture of Polymer 80's answer to the ATF, which is essentially a new frame design.
Speaking of which, somebody said that there's a new LWD frame coming out too. I thought that's what I saw on here.
Wouldn't doubt it.
Did they say how much the new P80 was going to cost?
I don't know. I just spotted that in a post on Reddit, so I didn't get an actual link to a Polymer 80 post for it or anything like that. It was just posted on Reddit.
Yeah, I didn't know. Lone Wolf, didn't they just quit 80% and they just sell the?
They might be
just because of the ruling. They did that because of the initial August ruling from last year.
Is it 100% frame that LWD is dropping? I don't know.
I don't know because they have the Freedom Wolves and then they have the Lone Wolf.
Yeah,
well, I kind of like the Lone Wolves.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Blade Boy. What if I do it on a undrilled or Glock frame? Yeah, Blade Boy said, sure, something's going to come out of SHOT Show.
yeah.
Which I will be waiting till they're finished, and I'll do what I do every year, and I'll just binge watch it.
Yeah, I've been avoiding YouTube too with all the SHOT Show videos because
I've been avoiding them. I'll binge it when it's done.
Is P80 going to be able to use the same jig?
I'm sure, or they'll go with that new jig Rook came out with, the everything jig.
That's possible. They have a good relationship with Pete.
Well, they also have the top area for milling out the frame, which, as we saw, the magwell / trigger housing area now looks like they have some crosshatch
I saw it. More
stuff in that area. So
what was crazy to me was that tab inside where the rear legs of the FLB go. I'm like, whoa.
Yep. I saw those. Yeah. And it's one of those things. Are they breakaway tabs? If they're breakaway tabs, cool. If they're not breakaway tabs, that means
I guarantee you they are not breakaway
tabs.
See, those in the Lone Wolf, they broke out pretty good. And you just had to clean up a little high spots.
Little chisel, little
chisel tip X-Acto blade.
Bing, bing, bing. Knock that off and then clean it up.
X-Acto blade, just zip, done.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll see when the first person gets a hold of one and starts posting.
All the new questions: why my housing doesn't fit in this, and why my holes don't line up.
So this thin wall, was I supposed to remove this one?
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, before we get out of here, I hate to cut you guys short, but before you see, we're about 10 minutes over. And some of the guys are still hanging around. And before we get out of here, guys, we've been tossing around the giveaways for several weeks now, and we've gotten some interest in a few of the items. And I think, what do you guys think? Should we? What are you going to say?
So here we go. I will tell you what, Darth Dav. I can do that. That is actually a good idea. I don't have any of the Dremel work, but I do have the stages of removal of the factory stipple on the build that me and Ram have been working on for a while. So the deal is, once we reveal those, I will give those slideshows to Hawkeye for when he does his next stippling thing.
I thought you were going to say something about what I was talking about, man. You just totally switched the subject. I'm like,
just answering this question. Go ahead.
I get that. Can I finish saying what I was saying now?
No. Yeah, of course you can.
All right, see, I'm trying to give away. See, guys, I'm trying to give
away. He's trying to give away stuff, and I'm like, baby,
and he's just stopping me, just cutting me off, you know.
Go ahead.
Some of the guys are here, some aren't. Guys, we got a few things I want to give away tonight. Some things we can't give away. We haven't had enough interest. We need at least 4 people on some of these things, because if we have 2 people, where's the fun in that? If I have to hold the things over into the next, but we got a couple items that we could give away tonight. If you guys want to give away some stuff tonight, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. We got a couple of things that we can give away tonight to have at least 4 people on it. If you want me to hold it over until the grand opening on the show on the 7th, I will hold it over to then. That way we give the people that haven't had an opportunity to sign up for prizes to sign up for them. So you guys let me know, what you want to do. You want me to give them away tonight or wait a couple of weeks and give them away on the 7th? Everybody that has entered into the drawings, your names are in the drawings. You're not going to be taken off. So it's just a matter of waiting a couple weeks, giving some people some more time. And we could always do it on the grand opening show on the 7th. So it's pretty much up to you guys that are still
we've
here.
got 12 people watching right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've got
to.
2 things. I can do the G3 G19 recoil spring or the trigger assembly.
Darth Dev says hold
Darth
over.
Dev
Sounds
says
good.
hold over. Blade Boy says
Boy
hold
says
it over.
hold.
If we get 2 more to say hold over, I'll hold them. I'll be 1. I think we should hold it because there's a couple things I do want to give away that
let's hold it. Let's make it a bigger event.
Yep, Mr. Vino says hold. Okay, cool. We'll hold it over. Guys, you go in if you have not signed up for 3 items. And Hawkeye had a great idea with the grips, the pseudo Talon grips, and they look good. I mean, if you have a OEM, they fit great. But as far as like he was saying on the P80s, they make great placeholders. They stick, they stay, and it actually probably give you a good template, right, Hawkeye?
Yeah, I've done that before. I used them as template.
So yeah, that works out great. So we're going to hold it over and we're going to run until the 7th. Now on the 7th, I'm giving everything away.
And you know what else they're good for is when you get old like me and you grab these kind of cups, they slip through your hands. Well, you just put some of that around there and they don't slip no more.
Multi-use. I love it.
Put some around the grip on my baseball bat.
Yeah.
I love it, man. Hey, look, well, we're going to wrap this up and because we are extremely over time. We are at 11:15. Guys, as we know, man, you guys are always hanging in there with us. We appreciate you. We definitely couldn't do this without you because,
thanks for stopping by, Monty.
Everybody we had some new people watching tonight. We appreciate you guys. Show up, and I apologize for not broadcasting the first 12 minutes on the right channel. So if you were on the other channel wondering where we were on Gentleman Designs channel. But I will be posting the full episode tomorrow. Once it processes, I'll post it up tomorrow on the Builders Tribe so you can see the full episode from the beginning. D, definitely look at the replay so you can see exactly, so you won't be so lost. And if you're still lost, go over to the forum when we upload the new forum and ask all the questions you want or show up next week. Because even though we'll be talking about something different next week, we answer all questions. So if you watch the replay and you want to show up next week and ask the questions that you have or put them in the comments, either way works for us. So we're about to get out of here. It's just been a great night, guys. Hawkeye, thank you for your expertise once again. Thank you for your expertise. Thank you for carrying the show tonight, guys. I didn't have a whole lot to say tonight, even though, I wanted to make sure I had everybody's name straight if we decide to do the drawing. So, but we're about to get out of here, guys. We'll talk to you later. Let's get back to building. Keep building, everybody.